Continue with the Brendin Horner protest today. I'm joined by AfriForum Deputy CEO Ernst Roots to unpack to us what their reading of the situation is today. Ernst, good evening and thank you for your time here on the Newsfeed Late Night.
Thank you very much.
Property of the court damaged, police property has been destructed as well, and according to South African law, this is an unlawful damage of property not belonging to you, belonging to another, and it's unlawful and illegal. I haven't heard what the AfriForum position is on the destruction of police property.
Well, I think firstly it's important to say that Firstly, what happened there in terms of the story that we are talking about now happened after the gathering, probably half an hour after the events where the different organizations spoke and so forth. And then it should be added that we as AfriForum do not condone mob justice or vigilantism. These people who were arrested should be trialed and the law should follow its course. But having said that, I think people underestimate how angry people really are about the situation in South Africa with regard to farm murders. And as unfortunate as what happened today is, we must recognize that this is the type of thing that we hope won't happen again in future, but it probably will if we have an escalating farm murder crisis combined with a state president who on an international platform denies the existence of the problem, and a police minister who very recently said that the police believes that this should not be treated as a priority. I think these two things are a very dangerous combination.
Now, Ernst, one would say, I mean, as of recently, the president has acknowledged farm murders as a problem. In fact, the deputy president himself has acknowledged that this is a serious problem and the killing of farmers should not be taken lightly. Further than that, in a parliamentary answering question, the police minister himself says all crimes that relate to farm attacks are viewed in South Africa as serious crimes category, violent crimes that deserve a focus, and hence the National Rural Safety Strategy that was implemented on the 1st of March. Would you agree that this particular matter of farm murders is receiving national focus at this point?
No, it's not receiving national focus because President Ramaphosa, when he was asked about this on an international platform, his exact words were, there is no killing of farmers or white farmers in South Africa. So he blatantly and actively denied the existence of this problem on an international platform in New York, in the USA. Afterwards, he was asked about this and questioned about this in Parliament when he tried to justify his statement by downplaying the extent of the problem. And at the same time, I mean, the way you explained what Minister Bheki Cele said is just an explanation, it proves that they do not take this seriously. Imagine if the police minister had said, we hear these talks about violence against women and children, but violence against women and children is just a manifestation of other crimes. And we regard all these crimes as serious crimes. So that's why we're not going to have we don't regard violence against women and children as a priority. Imagine if the police minister has said that. But he said that with regard to farm murders. His exact words were that the police should not regard this as a priority crime. And that's why people are so angry about this.
But that's not what the minister is saying. The minister is saying rural safety is a priority for the SAPS. And I'm reading here a statement that he signed in August. Is a priority for the SAPS and the Joint Intelligence and Operational Structure established rural safety priority committees on all levels of these governments, right? These committees support the implementation of the review of the rural safety strategy and are functioning at national, provincial, cluster district and police station level. I'd say that is a priority where the resources of the police have been plowed to detect and to prevent farm attacks.
Well, I mean, I looked it up as you were talking now. It says here, Bheki Cele, farm murders not a priority crime. And it is quoted. Police Minister Bheki Cele says farm attacks and murders will not be classified as a priority crime. And then he says, yes, but we must look at rural safety. Farm murders is a very serious and a very particular problem. That's like saying rhino poaching is not going to be a priority crime because all poaching is a problem. So we're not going to have a priority focused counter strategy against rhino poaching, despite the fact that this is a very serious problem. We're just going to have a strategy against all poaching. Or to say we're not going to have a focused strategy against violence against women and children, we're going to have a
This is not a strategy, Ernst, against all murder, with all due respect. This is a national rural safety strategy, particularly aimed at dealing with farmer techs. They are stakeholders. In fact, Freedom Front Plus, Mr. Groenewald, said in Parliament, in one of their virtual meetings, that we are thankful that this is now something that is beginning to happen as a movement on the side of the police in regards to farm murders in particular.
Yeah. We need to differentiate between the...
Yes, in South Africa, we see 21,000 murders that are happening. 57 people are murdered in South Africa. It's a big issue of safety, but this one is receiving a particular national attention.
It's not receiving a particular attention. I literally wrote a book about farm murders. There it is on my shelf. I know the rural safety strategy. I've studied it. If you read the rural safety strategy and you do not know what the reality in South Africa is, you would not even know about the existence of the phenomenon of farm murders. It's a very broad strategy. And firstly, it's a very broad strategy. But secondly, it's not being implemented. So we can talk about some document about prioritizing crime in rural areas, ignoring farm murders, but that document isn't being implemented. It's not the reality. We must talk about what the reality is. And it's a general fact that that document is not being implemented. So we cannot say this is a priority because there's a document lying on the desk of the police commissioner that isn't being implemented.
So I'm saying rural safety coordinators are not doing their jobs, or the safety committees that have been set, which, by the way, involve the farmers themselves, are not doing what they're supposed to be doing in terms of implementation of the strategy.
It's involving the farmers in theory, but not in practice. I mean, if you read the document, it sounds like a wonderful document, despite the fact that it doesn't recognize the existence of farm murders. But that document isn't being implemented. I mean, we know that. We can talk. I mean, we have more than 10,000 volunteers across the country who drive patrols, and we know the reality on police. And in some areas, there's very good cooperation with the police in terms of dealing with this, but it depends on the police station. In other areas, there's just no cooperation. And the police commissioner, and I think that's what you referenced when you quoted Dr. Pieter Groenewald, the police commissioner has made some comments about farm murders that should be welcomed in the last few days, but he's certainly not on the same page as the Minister of Police, who has publicly said that this should not be regarded as a priority crime. While people are, according to the police stats, I mean, you quoted that. I think it's very misleading to say there are 20,000 murders in South Africa and only so many of them are farm murders. You could use that argument about violence against women as well.
That's not what I said, Ernst. I'm quoting the statistics given to us by Statistics South Africa. They say there are 21,325 murders that have been committed in South Africa from the 1st of March 2019 to the 28th of February 2020. Those are the statistics.
Yeah, but that's what you said. That's the statistics you quoted, but you quoted
with farm murders. And I said there are 57 people being killed in South Africa a day. I didn't make any comparison with farm murders.
I thought you said 57 farm murders a year. No. But it's the same point. It's the same point. You can say there are 20,000 murders a year, and the majority of the victims are men. So why are we complaining about violence against women? I mean, you can say that as well, and we all know that would be a very atrocious statement. But suddenly, but there's this double standard when we talk about farm murders. All of these moral arguments and the sense of morality just simply falls away. And we get these politicians trying to justify the murders, or people saying, why should we prioritize this because there are many other people who are also murdered. The fact is this is a very unique crime phenomenon, and it's a crime phenomenon that has unique consequences.
The fact is that these are all serious category of crimes. There are people who are being killed daily in the townships, but we're not talking about township murders. We're talking about murder in the country. They are all serious categories of crime that can wipe out the economy, can wipe up the whole nation.
Do you think gang-related violence should be deprioritized because that's a priority crime?
I'm saying these are all serious crimes, just like rural attacks is a serious priority crime.
It's the double standard. You're saying these are serious crimes, therefore farm murder should not be a priority crime. It's the same crimes that happen in gang-related violence. How can we then make the conclusion that gang-related violence should be a priority crime? Why are we not saying, well, it's the same?
Don't misdirect what I'm saying. I'm saying to you, these are serious crimes and they all should be priority crimes. That's what I'm saying.
Yes, but that's not how priority crimes work. I mean, you can say every crime is a priority crime, and that just means that in practice no crime is a priority crime. A priority crime is to recognize that we are dealing with a crime phenomenon that is very unique in terms of the way it's executed, in terms of the way it's planned, and the consequences of this particular crime phenomenon is far-reaching, like copper cable theft. That's a priority crime. I mean, there are other forms of theft as well, but copper cable theft has very particular far-reaching consequences.
Yes.
And the same with rhino poaching, the same with gang-related violence, the same with cash-in-transit heists. We can say carjackings is a serious crime.
Yes.
Why are we then prioritizing cash-in-transit?
Here's what's happening. Heists, crime, hijacking, gender-based violence, all these have been given national attention and have been given a particular strategy to deal with them.
Yes.
So has farm murders been given a strategy that needs to be implemented.
Okay, I challenge you then to read to me from this rural safety strategy, this document that you are quoting, where does it say that farm murders is a priority? It doesn't say that.
I've just read it to you. I said rural safety is a priority for the South African Police Service and the joint intelligence and operational structures. Established rural safety priority committees on all levels of government.
Yes, but rural safety and farm attacks are not the same thing. Farm attacks is one crime, one particular crime phenomenon that happens in a broader context of rural safety. That's like saying rhino poaching is a priority crime because all poaching is regarded as a priority. Farm murders is not acknowledged in the rural safety strategy as a particular crime phenomenon that should be responded to appropriately. The fact that there's a rural safety strategy, firstly, it's good that there's such a strategy.
Because the South African National Rural Safety Strategy, which was adopted in response to the threat that is crime in rural areas, including murders and attacks on farms, pose to the rural economy, agriculture, food security, and the peace and stability of South Africa a threat. That is specific, and it's talking exactly to what you're raising.
I think you should read the rural safety strategy. Firstly, the rural safety strategy doesn't have a particular focus on preventing farm attacks and farm murders. That's a fact. Secondly, the rural safety strategy is not being implemented. So there's two facts that we cannot ignore when you cannot lift up a piece of paper and say, here's a rural safety strategy, so why are you complaining about farm murders? It hasn't made any difference because it hasn't dented the farm murder statistics. We need to respond to the reality on ground level.
But what I'm saying is that the responsibility of the implementation of the rural safety strategy is a collective responsibility that includes all the stakeholders.
That's not entirely the way it's framed in the rural safety strategy. What the rural safety strategy says and what the police commissioner has said now this week, which is something that we should welcome, is that the police cannot do it alone, that communities must work together with the police, and that is something that we think is very good news. But what we also know is that the police reservist system isn't functioning, which is this system that is supposed to be one of the main areas according to which people can work together with the police. So there are, in theory, there are platforms according to which people can work with the police, but these platforms aren't being implemented or utilized in practice. So yes, it's good to say we must work together, but the reality is that in some communities there's good cooperation and in others there's zero cooperation. And then we have, on top of that, we have a police minister saying that this should not be a priority. That is what the police minister said just 2 weeks ago.
Ernst, we're out of time. I appreciate you. Thanks for joining us tonight here on the Newsfeed Late Night.